It is nightfall at the U.S. border, where a real-life game of cat and mouse is about to begin. On the Mexican side, people gather, waiting their chance to cross. For every person who's caught and chased back, it's estimated that 10 others sneak through. Many of them here, in the hills above Tijuana. A heat-seeking night scope is scanning the darkness.
I'd say an estimated about 300-400 people.
These maneuvers are only part of the border battle. Authorities say most of the smuggling happens here, in broad daylight, where border guards have less than a minute to decide whether a car is suspicious enough for a search. Sometimes the dogs find drugs, and sometimes they find children.
We found them hidden underneath the back seats.
Immigration officials say baby smuggling is so common, the black market for babies so large, a deal can start on a street corner.
It's as simple as going down to Tijuana, approaching a local cab driver, and just asking him,
how much are you paying for one baby?
How much? Within minutes, the cab driver said we could be choosing a child.
How many you want? One chico?
Baby.
One?
One. How long?
20 minutes here.
20 minutes?
Yeah.
How much?
$20.
When this one was a year old, we bought this one. So we've had her for 3
Kevin and Judy Masrud of Ridgeland, Wisconsin didn't want to buy a baby. They say they wanted to adopt a child legally in order to expand their family. So they hired a Minnesota-based adoption agency headed by this woman, Pamela Reinert. Her agency, Building Families Through Adoption, had just announced a new Mexican program. Excitement runs high, it said, because children were available, and the agency staff was well-versed in Mexican adoption procedures.
This picture was taken when we were there when the baby was 3 weeks old.
Her name is America. The adoption agency's Mexican coordinator told the Masruds the baby was available for adoption and told them to contact this man, Hector Valdivia, the agency's attorney in Mexico. What the Masruds were not told, what Pam Reinert says she did not know, is that for years, Hector Valdivia has been under investigation for selling Mexican babies. Example, this U.S. government report obtained by the I-Team says that in 1983, Valdivia was the source for a baby stopped at the border as it was being smuggled into the United States. Example, this 1985 Justice Department report, Operation Cradle Snatchers, an investigation of a baby smuggling ring run by Mexican attorneys. The Justice Department investigation showed that Mexican attorneys operating in Tijuana's tourist district tricked Americans into believing the adoptions were legal by using forged documents, even phony birth certificates with babies' footprints. The investigation showed that children had come from some of Tijuana's poorest neighborhoods. In some cases, investigators say the babies were bought from poor families, simply to be sold to Americans. One of the lawyers under investigation was Jose Luis Gonzalez. He shared his law office with Hector Valdivia.
but that law firm, those two were involved in bringing the people into bringing the babies into the United States.
In spite of those investigations, the Masruds were being sent to one of the same attorneys,
who called us at midnight and said, I just got a call from Hector, go get your baby.
The Masruds say it was September 1988 when they got a phone call saying the adoption had been approved and the papers were ready. They could fly back to Mexico and pick up their baby. They had just taken this picture at their hotel in Tijuana when suddenly there was a knock at the door.
I was holding the baby. I went to the door, and I was standing there holding the baby, and I said to Kevin, there are police at our door.
The Mexican Federal Police, the Federales, arrested the Masruds, took them to police headquarters, interrogated them for 27 hours, then seized their baby. The adoption police told them was illegal.
The federal police investigator made the statement that he believed that all of the documentations for the child were forgeries.
Forgeries. Even if the adoption agency didn't know about Hector's history, they did know about something that happened in May, just a few months before the Masruds were sent to Mexico, and it should have been a tip-off to trouble. The police raided Hector Valdivia's home. The raid made headlines in Mexican newspapers. They said police were investigating Valdivia for vende niños, selling children. That was in May 1988, 4 months before the Masruds were arrested. You were aware in May of 1988 that this raid had occurred?
Yes, and if you...
Pam Reinert says she heard about the raid soon after it happened. The question then, why did her agency send the Masruds to Mexico?
We did not send her. We just told you that. We didn't send the family.
Now, the family tells me that they were instructed by your Mexican coordinator.
Yes, and she didn't tell us she was sending them.
It's so incompetent. You just can't imagine it.
Kevin and Judy Masrud think Pam Reinert's adoption agency set up its Mexican program without doing enough homework about Hector the lawyer and about Mexican adoption procedures.
They don't have any answers. They say, well, sorry, we just don't know what's happening.
What's more, even after the Masruds' arrest, the adoption agency sent this letter to other families. It fails to mention the lawyer's problems with police. Instead, it blames the delays on the U.S. consulate's refusal to process adoption cases.
My opinion is that that is quite inaccurate.
Dee Hollowell is in charge of adoption cases at the U.S. consulate in Tijuana.
There's never been a point that you're aware of
Never.
where you've stopped processing
Absolutely
adoption.
not.
This was the scene at the Mexican police headquarters. The Masruds just minutes before authorities seized their baby. The police had called TV crews to announce they had broken up a baby sale. More than a year has passed now, and the Masruds are still looking for answers.
We were telling ourselves that it's all going to work out because, after all, we are working with a licensed agency. It doesn't mean anything. You know, I might as well be trying to do this adoption myself. We are. Basically, it's a do-it-yourself adoption agency. And it's not working.
The Masruds say they have spent almost 3 years and $10,000 trying to complete the adoption. More than $3,000 to Pam Reinert's adoption agency. More than $3,000 to the Mexican attorney. More than $3,000 to travel to Mexico 3 different times. And still, they don't have the baby.
So it isn't just the money. It's the whole emotional trip they have taken us on and dumped us. I think it's so cruel and unfair.
The Masruds still hope that somehow the adoption can be completed. No one hopes as much as their youngest daughter. She also made the trip to Mexico.
She held her, she played with her, and we have been talking about this child ever since that child was 3 weeks old.
Which one's your favorite picture of her?
This one.
That one?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that your favorite?
Because she laughed that time.
She laughed?
I think I wish my baby sister was here very soon.